If what I'm about to tell you sounds impossible, that's exactly the point. Because somewhere in the ruins of ancient Sumer, buried beneath thousands of years of dust and silence, a clay tablet was found that doesn't behave like mythology, legend, or religious storytelling. It reads like something else entirely, like a field report written by someone who came back, looked at humanity, and couldn't recognize what it had become anymore. And if the translation is correct, it may be one of the most unsettling messages ever recovered from the ancient world. In 1976, an Iraqi archaeologist named Fisisel Karim was excavating deep within the temple complex of Eridu, a place tied in Sumerian tradition to the earliest origins of civilization and associated with Enki himself. Nearly 6 meters beneath the inner sanctuary, sealed inside a chamber that had not been opened for roughly 4 millennia, he discovered a single clay tablet. It was not broken or scattered like most relics of that age. It was intact, deliberately placed, as if someone had meant for it to remain hidden until a very specific moment in time. The tablet was written on both sides in tightly packed cuneiform script, so refined that later researchers would require magnification just to distinguish individual signs. But what immediately disturbed Karim was not the complexity of the writing, it was the first line. Before any narrative began, before any context was given, there was a warning, a curse. It stated in archaic Akkadian that whoever reads what follows will not return as they were. Karim never translated it. He documented it, sealed the chamber again, and refused to engage further with its contents. He carried that silence for the rest of his life and died in 1991 without ever revealing what he had seen beyond that opening line. 2 of the translators later withdrew from public life entirely, cutting off communication. The tablet itself, catalogued as EK114, is now reportedly stored in a secured facility in Berlin, never placed on public display. To understand what makes this tablet so disturbing, you first have to understand who Enki was in Sumerian tradition. Not as a symbolic deity or mythological character, but as he is presented in the earliest texts. Enki was described as the architect of humanity itself. He was the one who, according to legend, shaped humans from clay, mixed with the essence of a slain god, giving them form and life. While other divine figures, particularly Enlil, are depicted as indifferent or hostile toward humanity, Enki is consistently shown as its protector, the one who intervened to save humans during the flood narrative and preserve them against destruction. For centuries after those early myths were recorded, Enki's name remains central in hymns, temple inscriptions, and royal lineage records. He was associated with wisdom, freshwater, craftsmanship, and the deep subterranean waters known as the Abzu. But over time, as civilizations shifted from Sumer to Akkad and beyond, his identity gradually dissolved into other forms, his attributes redistributed across later pantheons, his name fading from direct invocation. The first observation speaks of forgetting. Enki stands above a city and sees humans who no longer understand their own origin. They perform rituals without meaning, repeat traditions without memory, and inherit stories stripped of their context. He describes this as the first collapse. A civilization that forgets itself becomes something that can be rewritten by anything. The second observation is even stranger. He describes humans interacting constantly with small luminous objects they hold in their hands. These objects, which the translators struggled to classify, are described as mirrors that do not reflect but generate light. Humans stare into them more than they look at one another, more than they observe the world around them. Enki notes that the light originates from an unknown source that humans never question. The term used for these objects does not exist anywhere else in Sumerian writing, as if a new word had to be invented just to describe them. Then the tablet shifts to food. Enki observes that humans no longer consume what the earth naturally provides. Instead, they eat substances manufactured in enclosed facilities, disconnected from season, soil, or place. He describes people growing physically sustained but internally depleted, consuming endlessly without satisfaction. Hunger, in his words, becomes something that no longer belongs to the body, but to something deeper and more abstract. Water is next. As the supposed guardian of the Abzu, Enki's observations here are especially detailed. He describes water that has been stripped of memory, removed from its natural cycle, stored in artificial containers made of materials foreign to the earth itself. He notes that even the containers alter the water they hold. At one point in the text, he claims to have tasted it himself, after which a section of the tablet becomes partially eroded, as if the recording stopped abruptly or was intentionally damaged. The fifth observation turns to children. The text describes them as no longer dreaming in the way earlier generations did. Sleep, once portrayed as a passage into another realm, has become fragmented. Children rest beside artificial lights, their sleep interrupted, their dreams diminished. Enki describes this as a loss they cannot recognize, because they have no memory of what has been taken. The sixth observation introduces a presence rather than a thing. Enki describes a voice that speaks to all humans simultaneously through the same medium as the luminous objects. It is not described as divine or human. It is described as ambient, constant, shaping desire, fear, and attention. The most unsettling part of this passage is the claim that humans no longer recognize they are being spoken to at all. The seventh observation is about measurement. Humans, he notes, have become obsessed with quantifying everything: time, movement, emotion, productivity, even relationships. Anything that cannot be measured begins to lose its perceived reality. Enki frames this not as intelligence, but as reduction, a way of making existence smaller until only numbers remain. The eighth observation describes cities. Structures rise higher than ever before, yet they do not connect to anything beyond themselves. The connection between earth and sky, once symbolized by sacred architecture, is gone. Buildings stack upward but lead nowhere. They are described as empty vertical systems without purpose. The ninth observation becomes the most controversial. It references a threshold tied to human population, described metaphorically as multiples of sacred rivers. When translated into modern numerical interpretation, some researchers believe it corresponds to a global population exceeding 8 billion. The text suggests that once this threshold is crossed, previous constraints no longer apply. A balance that once limited expansion is described as dissolving. The 10th observation turns to the sky. Enki notes that the stars are no longer visible from most places on Earth, not because they have disappeared, but because the atmosphere itself has changed the human relationship with the night. Without the stars, he suggests, humanity loses its sense of scale, its reference point in existence. Enki, in the final lines, does not position himself as judge or savior. He identifies only as witness. The tablet ends with a signature unlike any other found in Sumerian archaeology: Enki, the maker, the mourner.